Welcome back. Okay, so I've been looking at teams as we get closer to the trade deadline. Looking at teams below the trade deadline and who might be available, what they might be doing, where they're at in rebuilds, if that's applicable. And today I want to talk about the Buffalo Sabres. So, yesterday I talked about Montreal, who are at the bottom of the standings. And so I was like, yeah, we'll do another East team next. We'll talk about Buffalo. Buffalo's an interesting case. The trade of Jack Eichel kind of signaled this retool of a rebuild that they're going through. If you've watched Buffalo games, you would know that the arena is maybe half full a lot of the nights, and it is definitely shown that the Buffalo market. Well, they're probably pretty tired of a team that doesn't win. The last time they were 500 was 2012, 2013. So that's it. They were one game below 500, I think 4 or 5 years ago overall. But yeah, it's been a while. It's been a while since this was a winning team, and it's been a while since we saw a lot of hope. I think there's hope there, and I think we've seen it in this season. Now, for 2022, they have 3 first-round picks. For 2023, they have 2 second-round picks. I think they're going to add more draft picks this year. And saying that, this is a team that has a lot of good young players coming up, right? And they have good young players on their roster as well. So really for Buffalo, that core is likely there of players who can lead this team out of the mediocrity and get them at least back into the hunt for a playoff spot. But it's that patience that's kind of worn out, and I get it. I get it because they haven't been in a playoff spot in it's been over a decade. So, Tage Thompson leads the team in scoring. He's been a good story. 41 games, 14 goals, 16 assists, 30 points. On the right there, that's the totals from last year. And last year for Thompson, 38 games, 8 goals, 6 assists for 14 points. So he's already blasted that. He's more than doubled that total. And Thompson really is their best forward right now. Skinner, their best goal scorer, which is what they're paying him for. He may not be completely earning that contract, but with 16 goals, 12 assists for 28 points in 43 games, he's much better than last year. In 53 games last year, 7 goals, 7 assists, 14 points. I predicted he'd bounce back last year, and he didn't. The bounce back was delayed until this year. And again, it's not where they'd like him to be, but if he ends up scoring 30 goals, I think they'll be happy. It's not 40, but 30 is a start. Dahlin, 44 games, 7 goals, 21 assists, 28 points. Young defensemen are interesting to me because fans can be pretty brutal. I think learning hockey at the NHL level as a defenseman is really, really tough, and I think it takes a while. Dahlin seems to be getting incrementally better each year. 56 games last year, 5 goals, 18 assists, 23 points. So offensively, he's better this year, and he may just not be progressing as quickly as people had thought. And maybe he doesn't end up for making people forget Denny Potvin, who was the guy that he was compared to when he was drafted. But either way, he's still a very good defenseman for them, and so he should be a top 2 defenseman for them in the future. And there's other defensemen that are on their way. Kyle Okposo, 40 games, 8 goals, 16 assists, 24 points. Again, much like Skinner, it's not going to make you forget the contract he signed and that he didn't live up to it, but much better than last season. 35 games last year, 2 goals, 11 assists for 13 points. So much better totals for Okposo and much better play. And then you get Olofsson, Victor Olofsson. It's actually fallen off for him. 36 games, 5 goals, 16 assists, 21 points. Last year, he plays all 56 games, 13 goals, 19 assists for 32 points. So his goal scoring is off this year. I think the offense is still there. But for Buffalo, they may be reaching a point where they say, maybe we'll see if there's a taker. Like maybe we're at that point with Olofsson where that separation between team and player happens. But we'll see, right? The deadline is going to be quite interesting, and with Olofsson, it'll be a hockey trade, right? He's an RFA this summer, and we'll see if that has any impact on how long he's in Buffalo. Dylan Cousins, 42 games, 11 goals, 10 assists, 21 points. Up and down year for him, but better than last year. 41 games last year, 4 goals, 9 assists, 13 points. So again, another prospect who's getting better, may not be at the pace that we had hoped. Casey Mittelstad's another one that's not on the board because he didn't get enough points to be on the board yet, didn't play enough games, and it looked like he was progressing really nicely last year, and then this year gets set back by injury. Vinny Hinostroza, an addition for this team in the offseason, 36 games, 8 goals, 9 assists, 17 points. I kind of expect him to be a rental at the deadline. Hinostroza, if he buried as many opportunities as he's had, I think he'd be up towards the top of the scoring list, probably equal to Skinner and Dahlin. He's had a lot of opportunities that just haven't gone in for him, and really with Buffalo, that's been the case for most of the season. Asplund, 43 games, 5 goals, 11 assists, 16 points. He's right about where he was last year. 28 games last year, 7 goals, 4 assists, 11 points. Asplund, good, hard-working forward. I don't think there's any complaints with him. And so, yeah, I don't think there's any chance he's going anywhere unless somebody makes a ridiculous offer. And I don't think that's coming. Alex Tuch, part of the Jack Eichel trade. 13 games for him since returning from injury. 5 goals, 8 assists, 13 points. And he fits right in. Alex Tuch has absolutely fit right in with the Buffalo Sabres since he arrived. And that's good news. Then you get to the goaltending issues. 6 different goaltenders used to this point. Craig Anderson, 5-3 and a .917 save percentage. Not bad for a guy whose career was seen as over as recently as a year ago. And so, yeah, he's played well. Do they move him at the deadline? Maybe. There might be a team willing to make a move for him. But keeping in mind Anderson's in his 40s, may not be a huge market out there at this point. Tokarski, 4-6-3 with a .904 save percentage. He's been surprisingly good as well when he's been able to play. Hauser, the talk of the city again, 2-0 with a .948 save percentage. He goes down to Rochester. But Hauser, very good in relief. Luukkonen, who right now is hurt, 2-5-2 with a .917 save percentage. Luukkonen is really the future in net for them. And so I would expect him to be the starter probably next year. Either the starter or maybe they bring somebody else in and you have a 1A, 1B situation. But yeah, I would think Luukkonen gets a chance. Aaron Dell, 1-8-1 record, .893 save percentage. His save percentage has gotten much better in his most recent games that he's played. But yeah, the 1-8-1 record is ugly. Malcolm Subban, just the 0-2-1 record. .871 save percentage after coming over from Chicago. And he's on the injured list as well. So 6 different goaltenders. But this is a team that while there's all this turnover going on in net through various reasons, and up front there's been a lot of turnover as well, their UFAs tell you there's going to be a lot of turnover between now and the deadline and beyond that as well, where there's about half the roster on this part of the list. So on the UFA list, you have Cody Eakin, Mark Jankowski, John Hayden, Robert Haig, Mark Pesic, you have Anderson, Tokarski in the net, Miller, Butcher on the blue line, Hinostroza, Subban, Dell, and Hauser. All the goaltenders are either free agents completely or RFAs. You got Luukkonen's an RFA, Olofsson, Bryson, Andrew Ruotsalainen, who I'm kind of surprised hasn't had more games with Buffalo this year than what we've seen so far. So of the guys who are UFAs, I mean, Eakin, there's going to be a market for him. Jankowski, not as sure on Jankowski. Hayden, maybe. There's some toughness, bottom 6 there. Haig and Pesic on the blue line. There might be some interest there. Pesic can play forward as well, so that ability to play forward and defense might make him worth something. But none of these guys are going to get you first round or second round picks. I really think that they're going to try to add some more in that way. But 3 first round picks in 2022 is not bad considering how solid the 2022 class is supposed to be. Now, with the upcoming players, you've got Jack Quinn, of course, playing very well in the AHL this year, getting some games in at the NHL level as well. JJ Peterka has top 6 upside there. And Owen Power. Owen Power is really, in all honesty, he could end up being their top guy. And once Power's in the lineup, he and Dahlin, that could be ridiculous. If Dahlin reaches that peak and he's still building, and if Owen Power is as good as he has looked in the international stage, that this could be a huge year coming up for Buffalo, providing he signs, of course, his ELC. Isaac Rosen, a first-round pick from last year, highly thought of. Ryan Johnson, defenseman, and the last piece in the Ryan O'Reilly deal. I've said the whole way through that if Ryan Johnson ends up being a pretty good NHL defenseman, it evens out that trade a little bit more. And Johnson at this point does project to be a top 4 defenseman. So that would be a huge part of making things look at least a little bit better with the O'Reilly deal. So right now they have an 8.5% chance to draft first. and it's an 8.8% chance to draft second. This is according to Tankathon. They have a 44.4% chance to draft sixth this year. Again, it's a good draft class. Drafting sixth, not too bad. They have a couple other picks as well. So it could be a situation where maybe they move up to fourth, maybe they move up to fifth, that kind of thing. And it all depends on who's in what spot. The interesting thing to me is that we see this team that's been torn down with the idea that, this isn't the year. The last time they did that was 2014, 2015. And much like this, it was a similar situation that goaltenders, they kept getting more, but it looked like on the surface what they were doing was trying to downgrade parts of the roster to guarantee themselves the lowest point total. They ended up with a 329 points percentage that year. This year, the points percentage is 389. So in 2015, while they were coveting the Connor McDavid draft and hopefully getting McDavid, Edmonton wins that draft lottery, and instead they get Eichel. This year, do they end up drafting first? Do they get Shane Wright? This is a team that could absolutely use Shane Wright, and then that would go a long way to helping. When you've got Quinn, you've got Peterka coming up, you've got Olofsson in the lineup, and again, Olofsson can bounce back. You've got Cousins, you've got Middlestad, who's recently returned. You could have a pretty good young core in Buffalo, but again, the question with Buffalo all the way through over the last decade has been, okay, so you've got these good pieces of the team. How do you make out with the rest of that roster? How do you build that out? How do you get them back into contention for a playoff spot? And that's where the challenge has been. That's where the hurdle has been insurmountable for Buffalo since 2011. So we'll see whether or not they're really trending in that right direction this coming season. And what we see at the deadline could be further selling off of assets and maybe getting some of the guys on this side of the board into the lineup. Maybe Owen Power comes in and plays after the Olympics are done. That kind of thing, right? So we'll see what happens, and I'll be here to report on it when it does. Buffalo, always an interesting team, and hopefully they're interesting for positive reasons sooner rather than later. As a Canuck fan, I feel certain kinship with Buffalo at this point because it feels like Vancouver and Buffalo, who came in as expansion teams at the same time, have had a similar run. And it's too bad. So there you go. Let me know your thoughts in the comments section below. As always, don't forget to hit like and subscribe. If you're browsing your way through, you just happen upon this video. Thank you guys so much for watching, for all your support. I will talk to you again soon.